leaders. Welcome to yet another episode of Tales of Teens. Extremely excited to have this guest on my show today. She's an accomplished thought leader with nearly 2 decades of experience in data analytics and business intelligence. Throughout her career, she has demonstrated exceptional skills in managing and delivering complex projects across various domains, consistently showcasing operational excellence. Anju possesses a remarkable ability to build and mentor successful teams, fostering a creative work environment. Currently, she holds the position of Enterprise Data Analytics Delivery Leader at NetApp, where she plays a pivotal role in organizations' digital transformation journey. Her contributions include defining digital transformation strategies, developing data strategies, and leading identity and access management initiatives. Beyond her professional endeavor, Anju is deeply passionate about fitness and actively participates as a CrossFit athlete. In her spare time, she also enjoys coaching in strength and conditioning classes, further showcasing her dedication to promoting healthy lifestyle. Welcome, Anju. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Usha. It's a privilege and an honor to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Of course, of course. So let's start with your CrossFit athlete and coach part of your life. So tell us a little bit more about that. How did you come to take up that as a hobby? I don't know whether you will call it that.
I would say that is going to be where I'm headed in the future when I quit IT completely. So I want to open my own box. So I would not call it as a hobby. I think that's what I'm going to be doing once I'm done with IT, whenever that is, at least as
Interesting.
a full-time coach. So I stumbled upon CrossFit, I would say around 6 to 7 years ago. When I was always an athlete from school. I did a little bit of sports. I played badminton, I played table tennis, throw ball, and things like that. And around, I think when I got into corporate, that kind of stopped completely. There
Mhm.
was zero fitness in my life, if I may. Slowly I said, okay, this is not going to happen, and we got into Zumba and aerobics, which around 15 years was the norm, I think, for almost all ladies. Weights were intimidating at that point in time, and there was not a lot of awareness.
Yeah.
I think 4 5 years after that, when I quit Wipro, because Wipro had the infrastructure for allowing the employees to do Zumba and aerobics, so I
Hmm.
did that in office. Once I quit Wipro, I realized, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do if I'm not going to be in Wipro. And that's how I start exploring, and I come across this fitness center called Cult.
Okay.
So Cult is big right now, but back then they had only a couple of centers in Bangalore. And at that point in time, I walked in, it's this huge garage and it is really dark. And I was really intrigued by what they do. And that's really where my CrossFit journey started. They had strength and conditioning classes. I was introduced to weights for the first time. They had a very different format. It wasn't the regular machines, it
Hmm.
was you lifting weights, and you have to do everything with just your body. There are not going to be any machines assisting you.
Sure.
There was some sort of a format where there was circuit training, there's some competition involved. It said, let's see how many reps you can do in these many in this time limit. And I'm a very competitive person.
Hmm.
So I think it worked for me, and I've never looked back. And that's how my CrossFit journey started. And to date, I do CrossFit. It's not a very known format in India, but it's picking up big. It's a
Yeah.
combination of endurance, strength, gymnastics. It's got everything, and I still love doing it.
Wow. It's amazing. Yeah, I think it kind of caught up recently, sort of pre-COVID. I've got a cousin who I think joined it but never really continued. So I think it's not easy, but that's amazing. How do you make time? I mean, obviously you have a career which is pretty demanding, I'm sure.
Yes.
So how do you find time for that?
So I think there are only two things I do in my life: either work or work out. There's nothing else in my life. So I think that pretty much sums up how I find time. But I think, jokes apart, I start my mornings. I wake up very early just to work out.
Okay.
And that really sets the tone for the rest of my day. If I do not work out, that kind of really, I would say, it nags me, and it really sets the tone, and I'm not in the best of my mood that particular day. So
Right.
my husband is always like, please go and work out. It's okay, I will take care of the rest of the things at home, but ensure you work out so that everybody is at peace at home, that sort of a thing. And recently I also started coaching. I did coach pre-COVID for a bit, and then once I had a kid and then COVID and all of that, I just stopped. But I started doing coaching a few months ago.
Mhm.
In the box that I work out is where I also coach twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So
Nice.
it's crazy, but I'm really happy doing that. I think I like craziness in my life. I don't think I want a dull moment at all.
Yeah, never a dull moment, I'm sure. All right. So I think going back to how you started. So tell us a little bit about how, like where you grew up, your growing up period, school life, and all of that.
So I grew up in Saudi. I did my schooling in Saudi. My father
Hmm.
worked there. So I'm from Kerala. And in Kerala, one member of every household is in the Middle East.
Yes,
And that was
by
fortunately
the
or
norm.
unfortunately it was my father. So me and my sister, we grew up there. We did our entire schooling. Extremely different. It was a completely different world where I grew up wearing burqa through my entire life, all the way up to
Wow.
16, 17 years. I studied in an only girls' school. I studied in a country where talking to the opposite sex was considered as a law breaking offense. So that's pretty much how I grew. But that's the world I knew. And if I think about it, I really don't know how I survived. Because now I come back to India, and, with all the freedom and everything that I have over here, I really wondered how I did 16, 17 years of my life. But I did it. But that's pretty much the world I knew back then. I studied in an international Indian girls' school. So all Indians in Saudi Arabia went to that
Okay.
particular school. So I studied in Jeddah, and everybody in Jeddah, all Indians went to that school. It was CBSE affiliated,
Sure.
and I had some really great teachers. Sports was a major part of my, I would say, growing years in school as well. Even if it was an only girls' school, they ensured we had sports, extracurricular activities,
That's good at least. Yeah.
yeah, debates, and the academics was great. So all of that was amazing, except for the norms that came with the country in general. I think it has nothing to do with the school, it was the country. So
Mm,
that's how I
mm.
grew up.
Okay.
Yeah.
But did you have difficulty like when you came back? Was that for your engineering?
That's right. That's right. I came back and I was immediately transported into a co-ed college
How
where
did you cope up?
I had to stay in the hostel. It wasn't fun. The first 1 year was extremely tough, and I studied in a hostel that was new to me.
Hmm.
I was in a co-ed college that was new to me. What has to be said, what has not to be said, and plus, when you come from places like Saudi, my Malayalam was pretty good, I believe
Yeah.
so. But however, people who grew up locally did not.
Right.
So there was a lot of ragging, and
Mm,
ragging, I would say, in a certain sense, where they would make fun of my dialect and the way I speak Malayalam.
mm, mhm.
So yeah, it was tough the one first year, but that really shaped the way I think I am now, because it taught me to be resilient. It was
Right.
extremely tough, very, very different cultures, very, very different people, and even, mingling with the opposite sex, where you anything you could say could be construed very differently. So all of that was a learning. Now, when I look back at it, it was fun, but I think that really shaped the way I am today. So yes.
Very interesting. Yeah. I can imagine. I studied in a girls' college just for my graduation, but even like 3 years can really change things, and especially that those are like the crucial years of,
Absolutely.
like changing from a teenager to being an adult, and the moment you're out there, it is again like really
Absolutely.
very different. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then so you seem to have also grown pretty fast. I mean, with you didn't struggle too much there, I think, or maybe I'm just presuming. But what would you attribute your success to?
So I can say I was at the right place at the right time, but I would definitely attribute it to my hard work. And I think it also has to, it comes a lot with good mentoring, being able to talk for yourself. Still not very good at that, to be able to market
Yeah, I
yourself.
think
And
we all need to be better at
yeah,
it.
yeah, we need to be better at that. But I think I had some great mentors, bosses who identified the potential in me, gave me those opportunities, trusted me with those opportunities. And
Mhm.
once I was given an opportunity, I ensured that I made complete use of that opportunity. And that really took me to the next level, I would say. That's really what happened. So
Right.
I was open to all sort of challenges, whether I have worked in that domain in the past or
Okay.
not. I don't think I shied away. I knew the worst thing would be I would not succeed. And there have been areas where I have not succeeded. However, I take that with a pinch of salt and I say, hey, I tried and I'm still open to trying new things. So I think that really is my USP.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about like your work experience. So obviously you went from in working your way through the corporate ladder, and then some point you shifted to being a leader. How
Yeah.
was like tell us about the journey and what were some of the key milestones through that journey?
So I started my career in Infosys. I was a campus recruit after 4 years of my engineering. Uh,
Hmm.
Thankfully, there was a campus recruitment in place, and I got placed because I cannot imagine if I did not get placed out to apply for places and go through that process would have been
Explain.
tedious. But anyway, I did get that. So 7 years I spent my career in Infosys. Like everybody starts a career, you're a software engineer. You're really doing a lot of coding. I was always in the data world.
Hmm.
So I started off with the native Oracle PL SQL, learned other ETL tools like DataStage, Pentaho, did a bit of Cognos reporting. And I was a technical lead when I left Infosys. That means you're pretty much still technical,
Hmm.
uh, not a leader, but then you are really mentoring the people, the freshers who come in your team. That was my responsibility. And then I moved to Wipro 4 years. And I think that really, the trajectory in Wipro was extremely, I would say, it was a big curve, all in the right direction, right? So I joined as an SME over there in Wipro. A couple of years later, I got an opportunity to become a manager and I got promoted. And that's where really I started doing leadership roles, if I may. I
Hmm.
had an entire team under me. So I was sort of a technical manager. Post that, I went to UST Global, did 4 years over there. Again, a delivery manager, but I think it was mostly in the management layer. And I think I really got my breakthrough in my current organization, NetApp, where uh, somebody who identified me said, hey, we have an opening as a director for IT. Would you like to apply? And I said, why not? And this was in 2020, somewhere around Feb, just before COVID was hitting. So they said, we're having this opportunity. Why don't you, try? And I applied for that job. COVID hit. I was pregnant and all of that happened at
Okay.
the same time. So when I was applying for the job, I told my boss back then, who when I joined NetApp, he was my boss, and I told him, "Hey, I'm expecting, and that means I will not be on the job for at least 6 months because I'm going to go for my maternity leave and so on." So he said a very interesting thing. I was expecting him to say, "Oh, we're very sorry. This is a very demanding role. We need you." And I was quite surprised when he said, "Hey, life happens. If you're good and the right person for this job, you're going to get this offer." And I was completely taken back by that response. And I was extremely motivated and very happy because I personally had the myth that once you go through this phase of your life where you're expanding your family, your career does take a backseat. And I think it is also substantiated with a lot of my friends telling, hey, I had to take a break. I was not given a lot of opportunities the moment I was going through that phase. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really the notion I had within myself. And when he told me, hey, that doesn't matter at all, I was extremely happy. And I went through, I think, 3 to 4 months of interviews. With COVID happening, I think everybody was figuring out what's going to happen. So
Yeah.
that took time. And this role in itself, it required multiple rounds. So I think I had close to 6 to 7 rounds within. And finally, when I got my offer, it was somewhere around September. So I joined on September 14, 2020. October 7th, I had my baby. So 3 weeks. That's it. 3 weeks in the system, and I'd gone on my maternity leave.
Wow.
And once I came back, I just hit it off. There was no dull period, really. Like I say in my life, there really wasn't a dull period. And I would say that is my turning point in the career because according to me, a lot of things had to align if that one opportunity had to come your way. You were expecting. It was COVID. A lot of jobs were really, they were figuring out the whole remote situation. For all
Mm-hmm.
you know, they were freezing a lot of the recruitment process at that point in time across organizations,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that went through. I had my baby. Everything went through, and I still got this role. So I would say the stars were just perfectly aligned for me at that point in time.
And some talent, I'm sure. Right? Not just the
Yes, I'm not
stars.
I'm not underplaying that. And also my boss back then, right? He believed in me. He said, "Hey, we're going to give you this opportunity. You see what you can make out of it." And having someone to trust you, and he's not someone who worked with me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so he was, I would say, in my previous organization, he was a customer, and I was working for this particular vendor. So they were my customers. NetApp was my customer, and that's how I did a presentation of sorts, and then he said, "Hey, maybe we have something for you. Why don't you give it a try?" So having someone trust you, giving you that opportunity, and you making the best of that opportunity, everything has to fall in place, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I've got goosebumps, really. I mean, it takes like a true leader to really, stand by what they believe and actually navigate. I'm sure like he had multiple other like conversations in the organization to make such a thing happen. And then,
Yes, he did tell me later, and he said it wasn't easy.
yeah,
It definitely wasn't easy for me to get this going,
yeah,
but yes, we have got to him. So now you better prove everything that you've got.
yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't a joke, and he didn't mean to pressurize, and there was no obligation and stuff. But then I would say I put everything I had on the line when I got into this particular job. Not that I did not in my previous organizations. It was a very different feeling. I was a mother. I had to balance that. And then I had someone who believed in me. I think it was a great opportunity. It was a very different kind of opportunity. I had to set up a team from scratch. They were
Mm,
just insourcing into NetApp. They were just, setting up the teams. Predominantly, they were an organization that outsources work. So there was a lot, and I put everything I had on the line, and it's starting to pay off. 4.5 years into the organization, I have no regrets whatsoever.
wonderful. What a wonderful story
Yeah,
about you as well as I think the leader himself. And you want to pay that forward, right? And when you get
absolutely.
such an experience, you want to actually have others experience the same leadership and mentorship and advocacy that you want to actually give to others that you encounter in your career.
Absolutely. I would say what he did was extremely bold, and he gave me a lot of courage to really take on this opportunity, and I'm extremely thankful to him. I keep telling him that. He says it's you as well, you know that, right? I said, yeah, but somebody has to give you that opportunity.
Yeah,
Somebody has to stand by for you, and he was that person. So yes.
that's true. And I'm sure like there are like what you mentioned about women having to reprioritize a career versus kids and home and things like that's true, right? And it's global. I've realized, I've
Yeah,
worked with, a lot in the DNI space lately, and it's global. It's nothing to do with India. In fact, sometimes I
absolutely,
feel we are still better. But
absolutely.
just somebody sponsoring you for what you truly are and giving that opportunity. And it's not, I mean, this is, of course, a case with women and, trying to make a family. But I think everybody needs
Yep.
advocacy, I feel, somebody who will believe in you. I just remembered a case where we were hiring for a pretty like entry level role, and there was this kid like fresh out of college, starry eyed, and all wanted to start a career. His family was like really humble background, and I had a choice between this person and someone who had some bit of experience, had like family was well settled, and father was a like high flying corporate professional, and then you had to make a choice, like what do you give. Both were equally good, and then we decided to offer this fresh grad. They're still in the organization, and they've like really had a good career, got married, has built a house, and it's so gratifying to see that progress having
Absolutely,
changed the lives.
absolutely. I agree. I agree. So, he's still in my line of business, and I don't report into him directly right now. But every time there is, any appreciation or anything that comes across my way, he'll be the first one to say, "Hey, great job!" And I'm sure he takes a lot of pride in my achievement.
Yes.
And recently, I did get an award that they give only to directors and above, because we generally have these awards for our individual contributors, managers, senior managers.
Sure.
I think what we have realized is we are not probably recognizing the senior director community well enough. So they started something called as a lead award, which is more to show, the leadership qualities and taking on. And I don't know what the criteria was, but that just got, I think last fall in October, and I got that award first, and then they sort of gave a speech, and he went and said, "Hey, I'm going to take a bit of credit because I got her in the organization." And I think that is true. It's just not for getting me in the organization, but really mentoring me all the way through my career. I was obviously very, very scared, very nervous. It was very different from my previous organizations. This is a product company. I've always
Yep.
been in a service based organization. And he's been there with me, though he was, at the leadership level. He's a senior director now, he's a VP. He's always guided me. He's always taken time to tell me, "Hey, you should probably do this way, and maybe you should think about it by doing this." So it's not that somebody just gets you into the organization and then you're on your own. I think he really has a very important role to play in shaping my career, uh, the way it's turned out to be. So yes.
Fantastic, and congratulations on the award as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a very prestigious moment, and
Yeah,
I take a lot of pride because it was the first time they introduced that, and I was the first person who got it. So I'm extremely happy about that. Yeah,
that's phenomenal.
yeah.
Awesome. So, talking about leadership, how was the transition to become a leader? Like from an individual contributor to when you became a manager, how was that transition? Did you face challenges, and how did you really kind of uh, orient yourself to the new role?
Of course, it was extremely challenging because I would say the main difference between being an individual contributor and a manager is really, as an individual contributor, you're responsible and accountable only for your deliverables. As a manager, you're responsible and accountable for your team's deliverables. And to get your team to do the work is the hard part.
Mhm.
Everybody fancies being a manager, which is what I've realized. And I also did at some point in time, because you are a manager and there are people reporting into you. But once you get that position, is when you realize getting people to align with you and getting them to deliver is not very easy, because everybody is different. And I also realized one leadership style does not fit all.
Yeah.
So the way I'm going to probably try and get work done from person A is going to be very different from person B, because person A might need a lot more guidance, person B might not need guidance. The attitudes of the people are going to be very different. How you get work done is going to be very different. So I think I learned that pretty quickly. It definitely was challenging because you're equally wanting to stand your ground and you want everything your way, and you think naturally, because I'm the manager or the leader, things should go my way, right? So that is the phase where I'm sure everybody struggles with a team, because everyone is not going to align. Let's be very
Yeah.
let's be real. Everyone is going to say, hey, there's going to be this one person in that whole group saying, that manager is crappy, I'm not going to listen to him or her. So it was challenging, but nevertheless, I think I've learned the art. And right now, I take a back seat. I really don't tell my team what to do, what not to do. I will stand by them if they need anything. I will guide them if they need anything, but I want them to make their own decisions, and I want them to stand by their decisions. That's what I
Right.
always tell. If you have made a decision, stand by it, and I will stand by you. If it's right or wrong, we'll face it together. But don't take a decision and then take a backseat and say, hey, this was not me, this is somebody else. I said, that is not acceptable. So I think it's been pretty good. I love being in this space. Managing people is not easy, but I also love the whole aspect of talking to people on a very regular basis, them coming to us for help. There's so much to learn from them, the way they approach things. We always
Right.
think after a certain point, we are in this space, everybody who is reporting into us have to learn from us, which is absolutely not true. We have so much to learn from them on a daily basis.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think that's you at some point you have to um like stop teaching. I
Yeah,
mean, you don't have answers to everything. It is more facilitating the work and removing roadblocks and things like that. And honestly, I've got into roles I had no idea about, and like the first thing is that hands up. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm here to help you. Get your work done. That's it. Yeah, and then I agree with what you said about like you can't get everybody to align with you or make everybody happy. Like I think was it Steve Jobs who said that if you want to make everybody happy, sell ice creams.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's what it is, right? I think we just need to do what is the right thing for the organization, for the larger good, for what you're working on, and that's pretty much it. And sometimes you have to take a hard stance. So there are moments when your team is not able to decide. They're all going in circles and saying, "Hey, this is how we should." You just take a stance and say, "Hey, now I'm the leader. I'm going to tell you what to do because it's not going anywhere," right? There are
Yeah,
moments like those too, very, very rare moments, but usually I let my team drive everything.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll say that this is where I use my veto.
Yeah,
But you have
exactly.
to get to a decision. So, okay. So, just going back to the story about how you got this role in this organization, I'm very curious. And of course, like you had proved yourself in your assignment when you were servicing this client, like
Yeah.
NetApp as a client.
Yes.
But when you spoke about when you were offered the role, and you obviously were in dual mind whether this is the right thing to do or not, and plus of course on the personal front you had things going. Any thoughts, advice on how do you prepare for a moment like that? That's like a life changing moment, right? Hands down, completely. It doesn't happen often. What was going through your mind, and what do you think has prepared you for a moment like?
Firstly, I don't think any amount of preparedness is going to is going to be enough. Let me put it that way,
Yeah,
because you don't know what's going to be there, and hence, I don't think I was prepared enough. But the one thing I did, so this is how I looked at this whole thing. I said, "Hey, I'm having a beautiful opportunity. It's going to be very demanding. That I knew for sure.
Hmm.
It's going to be very different. I'm going to have to put a lot of hours. I just had a baby, barely 6 months old. So I sat my husband down and I said, "Hey, it's going to be demanding. So you want me to take, if we are going to take the job, I will need you to step up." And he said, "Yes, I'm going to do it." And that was in my control. To
Right.
sort that out was absolutely in my control, to put things into order over there. And that really, I would say, helped me do what I can do today. And my husband stuck to his word. He said, "I will step up," means he took 70% of things to do. And to date, he does. I think my son calls him first before he calls me. And I would say that's, as much as it's very beautiful, I'm envious about it as well. But but I think that is how I prepared myself, to be honest, Usha. I didn't think of anything on the career front because I didn't know what was going to
Yeah.
unfold. I was getting into this new opportunity, but I knew personally also I went under a very, very different, it was life changing for me, even on the personal front, right?
Right.
So I knew I had some control there. I tried to make peace there. And if you're not stressed there, then I think you can deliver here, right? If you're going to have to manage that and do this, maybe you're not going to be able to do justice. So I want to really check with my husband, is he up for this too? While it's my job, we have a full-time baby, baby job also that's going to
Yeah.
come. So he said it was fine. And as much as I would thank my boss for this opportunity, I should say my husband, my ecosystem, my parents too, my family, entire family stood by this decision of mine. They've always been there when I've needed them, especially my husband. He's taken majority of the work off my shoulder, because of which I'm able to do what I'm able to
That's awesome. That's awesome.
do.
Great. All right. So talking about kids, and you just mentioned about that a little bit, but obviously that is a lot of responsibility, and I always get into these conversations with women on balance, right? How do you work life balance? Although I always say it is just life balance, like both are part of life, but how do you maintain the balance?
So let me be very honest. Weekdays are pretty difficult, right? I don't spend a lot of time with my child because you're working from home. I'm still working from home thrice a week. Twice a week, I go to work.
Okay.
And he goes to school, he comes back. There's probably 1 hour max overlap I have with him. And then, of course, he's also growing up. He has zero time as well. He's got his friends coming over. He's in the park. But weekends, I think we try to spend some time together. He's got his swimming classes. We go there together, and we take him out a bit. We try and spend some time with him. And the rest of the days it's work. I really cut out of work usually on weekends. I typically don't open my laptops. I don't like doing that unless and until there's a P1, P2 situation.
Hmm.
I guess that's how you maintain balance. And then there are vacations. There are these long weekends or holidays. We go with him, take him to Kerala, uh, my native and my husband's native. So I think, yeah, that's pretty much how I maintain the balance. But weekdays are tough. So it's
Right.
not pleasant on weekdays.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you get these like do you get on a guilt trip at all? Like I used to when my daughter was young.
Yeah, yeah, I
I
do.
just
Not very often. I
okay.
usually get on a guilt trip when I have to travel. So
Right.
I
Yeah.
only travel twice a year. I go to the US, and I spend a couple of weeks over there. Back then, I then is when I really get a guilt trip. But otherwise, I'm okay. And then the way I make up for it is when I come back, I've got a lot of stuff for him, and that's really, not the right thing to do, but still, yeah. Yes, to your point, I do go on a guilt trip once in a while. It happens. I think it is very natural for that to happen.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody might be. We speak about it a little bit more. Like we are vocal about it. I think it is. It happens in all situations.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that That's all I had in terms of questions for you. It was wonderful chatting with you, Anju. I know it was long time coming. I know this was we tried multiple
Yes.
times, but
Yes.
finally you have made this possible. I'm so excited having had this conversation.
Same here, Usha. I think we clicked off in this Gartner summit. Probably one of the good things that happened when I visited or did that summit.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was a pleasure being here talking to you. And this is a great platform for all women leaders to share their stories, because I'm not sure if my story would have reached a lot of people otherwise. And that's a story I've been itching to tell, whenever I get an opportunity, I do that. But there's only so much you can be very vocal about it. So I'm very happy that I got this platform. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Huh?
Yep.
Take care.
Okay. See ya. Bye.
Well, that was a beautiful conversation, isn't it? We need leaders like Anju and the leader who hired her into the organization. We need leaders who can be sponsors, advocates for true talent. If you know such a leader, I'll be happy to bring them on this podcast and have a conversation. Until then, keep leading the way and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Bye bye.